If the winter months leave you feeling flat, you're not alone. Gloomy weather leads to a gloomy mood, and before you know it, the whole season slips by in a haze of mindless scrolling with nothing to show for it. In this video, I'll share 5 simple winter habits that will help you stay happy, productive, and crucially, off your phone. If you put them into practice, your winter will feel full of moments that mattered, and not just months that melted over. If you took my emotional temperature at a random moment on a random day, it would probably read, oof. Feeling content and happy isn't my natural resting state. I've got to really work at it. But over time, I've developed routines and habits that improve my mood, that keep me productive and useful, and that make me reasonably good company. But in the winter, man, it's rough. For whatever reason, as soon as the skies turn grey and the cold sets in, all those strategies just go out the window. I know exactly what to do, but for whatever reason, I find myself doing the exact opposite. And in the process, I amplify my low mood. In the last few years, I decided to take control of the situation, and ever since I've been experimenting with routines and habits that keep me happy over the winter period, and crucially, not glued to my phone. What follows isn't a prescription, it's a description of what's working for me. But if, like me, your emotions are inextricably linked to the seasons, you might find some ideas that help. At least part of the source of my gloominess in winter is the distinct lack of natural light. I live in a 400-year-old building in the countryside, and there are no windows on one side of the building. At times, it feels like I'm living in the basement of Wayne Manor. But over time, I've found there are several things I can do to my living space that drastically improve my mood. In the 1970s, my dad lived in Denmark. And growing up, Danish culture was very present in our household. In the stories my dad would tell us, books that filled the house, the artwork, some of it of confusing origin, that adorned the walls. And since childhood, I've loosely been aware of the Danish concept of Hygge. It's a pretty complex idea to a non-native Danish speaker that can mean many things. But in simple terms, it's a quality of coziness, a feeling of being warm, safe, comforted and sheltered. A feeling of contentment and togetherness. It's a feeling that everyone is aware of, but can't quite define. Well, crucially, Hygge is something that you can invite into your home. I do that by lighting fires inside and out, by finding candles and incense I love the smell of, through accent lights around the home that punctuate the darkness instead of fighting against it. I find it reading in front of the fire with a glass of wine, or journaling with a candle burning at my side. Coming from me, I appreciate this could just be dismissed as hipster nonsense, but in truth, when I take the time to do it, it gives me an inner warmth that radiates outwards and lifts my mood in the process. If you'd like to learn a bit more about this concept, then I'd highly recommend The Book of Hygge by Louisa Thompson Britts. To read it is Hygge-like, and it's full of ideas of how you can invite it into your life. Ten years ago, I watched the documentary Minimalism. Although the decision to get rid of 90% of my wardrobe was one I would ultimately regret, it had a profound impact on my thinking. For the last 10 years, I've been slowly simplifying my life and fighting the urge to mindlessly consume. On the rare occasions I buy something new, I try to buy things that last. But even the most durable of garments need tender loving care to reach old age gracefully. My wife gave me this jumper 13 years ago. I've worn it thousands of times and I've been rough with it. It's been around the world, stuffed in rucksacks. It's served as a picnic blanket in spring, a tent pillow in summer, and unsurprisingly, holes have begun to emerge. With some tutoring from my neighbour Katie, who is an expert at this stuff, I've been slowly repairing it. It takes me most of an evening to patch a hole, and regardless of how neat or tidy it is, I'm always proud of myself for accomplishing something useful. I've also got this special leather jacket. It's aging beautifully, but to protect it for winter and to bring out the patina in the leather, it needs to be conditioned. You can do this with any good neutral leather conditioner, and I like to do it by hand. That avoids the conditioner being absorbed into the cloth, and it means I can really work it into the jacket. It took me several days to do this properly, allowing the conditioner to be fully absorbed overnight before buffing it, ready for another year in the cold. In an era where almost everything can be sped up or optimized, these are some of those rare tasks that if you want to do them properly, well, they just can't. And as trivial as it sounds, the process of coming to terms with the fact that it will be done when it will be done feels nourishing, and strangely, it's also improving my patience. After learning about minimalism, I decided to try and declutter other aspects of my life. And although I wasn't happy to live in a capsule wardrobe that made me look like a mime, I was very happy to live with less in the way of material objects. But having made the mistake with my clothes, I wanted a better system to help me structure the process. In 2016, I got a copy of Marie Kondo's Spark Joy, an illustrated guide to the Japanese art of tidying. If you've not heard of the book, Kondo describes a system for decluttering your home by category and takes a much more spiritual and emotional approach to the process. Instead of focusing on what you're getting rid of, she focuses more on what you keep. Her central thesis is that you should keep things that spark joy. The book is filled with practical ideas on how to store items, fold clothing, sort paperwork, you name it. If you've ever wanted to declutter your home, this is one of the foundational texts. I applied her approach pretty systematically, and I noticed immediately that my surroundings were more pleasant. My thinking was clearer, and I had less trouble getting rid of items that had been hanging around my entire adult life unused. But recently I've taken up some new hobbies, making videos being one, and my wife and I recently took on an allotment. A lot of new stuff has entered our house that currently has no home. And coming up to winter, I already know that if I don't sort it out, it's going to make me miserable. So I'm going back to the source, and this time Sauron's eye is focused on gym kit. I'm only partway through the process, but already I'm feeling lighter and a sense of gratitude for the few things in my life that really do spark joy. If you're also affected by the weight of stuff around you, then starting the process of decluttering your home is one thing you can do that's fully within your control. And if my experience is anything to go by, then it might bring you just a little bit of joy in the short term, and in the long term, it might help you establish a useful habit that sticks for a lifetime. If you'd like to hear more about how I'm getting on with decluttering my home, then I'm going to write about it in my next newsletter. Just like this channel, I share the lessons I'm learning as a guy in his late 30s who is trying to slow down and live a bit more intentionally and make time for the things that bring him joy. It's completely free, and if you'd like to follow along, I'll leave a link in the description below. I'd be honoured to have you. If you've watched any of my recent videos, you'll know that I like to send postcards to my friends and family. And in the last year, I've sent more than 150. Some of them have been long and full of detail, others have been pure nonsense. Congratulations, condolences, words of encouragement, words of self-congratulation, if I'm completely honest. They've been to 7 countries, and although not everyone writes back, that's kind of not the point. I hope it lets people know that I'm thinking about them, that they're important to me, and in the winter months it brings me a sense of connection with the people I really care about that otherwise might be missing. But I realised recently, after 2 decades of writing on a keyboard and more recently on a smartphone, my writing had become basically illegible. For all my good intentions, there's every possibility that more than half of the postcards I've sent would have been undecipherable even to Bletchley Park. We have this postcard mounted on our living room wall. We think it's from the 1950s. In it, a family recounts their disastrous trip to Connemara on the west coast of Ireland. The weather was so bad their trip was delayed, and then through a series of mishaps, they had to hike across country in the cold and rain. We framed it because we love Connemara, but also because the writing is beautiful. And recently, my mini creative project has been to try and improve mine. I'm not doing anything particularly complex. I've just been watching YouTube tutorials on how to write in cursive, and because I write so frequently, I've got ample opportunity to practice. Slowly but surely, my writing is improving. It's more legible, and it's approaching something that looks pleasing. And I'm delighted about this. But the unexpected benefits have been far more meaningful. If you ask me what I said in any of my last 100 WhatsApp messages, I probably couldn't tell you. But if you ask me what I wrote to Gareth Cryer in the last postcard I sent him, well, I can remember that in the same level of detail as I do our conversations. I don't know why that's important, but intuitively it feels like it is. But perhaps more helpfully for me is that when I'm trying to write nicely, I can't think of anything more than the message I'm writing, the person I'm thinking about, and the pen gliding across the paper. I'm not worrying about any of the other thoughts that are usually buzzing around in my head, and it's relaxing in a way that's almost meditative. So if you're also looking for a way to relax and to tame the storm going on up here, then for me anyway, this has been surprisingly effective, and the compliments I've got on my lovely writing have also made me feel great too. My wife is never happier than when she's tramping across the countryside with our dog Larry. A few years ago, I made a promise to her that I would come on at least one long walk every week. In summer, keeping my promise was easy, and the more I got accustomed to the miles, I found that a long walk on a Saturday morning was an integral component of my happiest weekends. Being in nature helped me put my worries into perspective, and accomplishing something early in the weekend made relaxing not only possible, but somehow more satisfying. But when winter rolled in, I found myself rebelling against it. I kept my promise, but through gritted teeth. In January, I travelled to Iceland for a short break with my brother and sister. At that time of year, there was 6 hours of sunlight a day, and the temperature was -3 degrees Celsius. So I went prepared. Insulated against the elements, I couldn't wait to get outside and explore. I was impervious to the wind, the rain, and the cold, and able to welcome in all the benefits of being outdoors that I'd come to rely on in summer. Regardless of the season, being in nature, getting natural light on my face, fresh air, exercise, it's integral to my happiness, and I'd be surprised if it's not integral to most people's happiness. For me at least, getting all of those benefits in winter has been as simple as buying a few items of clothing that have made it possible to embrace the elements instead of shivering against them. A waterproof coat, a warm jumper, sturdy boots. That's all it takes for me to find pockets of happiness in winter, despite the weather. If I could pick any of these routines to carry me through winter, it would be to find a mini creative project. In the video up here, I explain why they're so fulfilling, how to find one, and how to use them to keep you happy and off your phone in winter.